Oh, gnarly, dude. Looks like you just went overboard.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Overboard. I'm your host, Jenny.
And I'm Anthony.
And today we're doing a podcast on motivation and productivity. And I think it's a good day to be doing it because here in Texas it is gloomy and raining and storming, and that is the forecast for the entire week. So my motivation currently is not really all there because, you know, when it's gloomy, you don't really want to do anything. You just want to be laying in bed, watching a movie, maybe light a candle. And it's hard.
And it's Sunday.
Yeah, and it's Sunday. But before we go into tips on productivity and motivation, I think it's best that we do emphasize the fact that it is okay not to be motivated or to have a day where you don't do anything, where you just lay in bed. Like, I think as a society nowadays, especially in the American culture, it's such a thing to constantly be moving and productive and motivated, and if you're not constantly doing something, then you're not, you know, keeping up with the time and feeling like you're just falling behind in life and everything. And it's just such a bad way to look at things because us as humans, we're not meant to be as doing as much as we do as much as we do. Us as humans are not supposed to be doing as many things per day that we do now. Like, we weren't built to constantly be moving, you know?
Well, we're built to be constantly moving, but like
Not at the
at
pace.
our own
Yeah, not at the pace.
not at our own pace. Yeah, like in I guess it's an American culture thing cuz I remember learning that like in Mexico, for instance, like
Slow living.
the word siesta exists for a reason, and it's because they have siestas. Like, you go to work, then you have a siesta where maybe you take a nap, maybe you just kick it for a while, a couple hours, and then come back to work or something.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong. That's what I remember learning in like Spanish classes. Like,
No, yeah, it's like
that, like,
slow living.
yeah, like the way that we do things in America or in the US is like
Work.
everything's timed.
Yeah.
You know, it's, you have a time for this, a time for that, a time, you know, deadlines. You have, you know, I need to be at work at 8 a.m. and I need to leave at 4:30 a.m. Where it's like, in some other cultures, it's not like that. You just
Go
do
with
your thing.
the flow. Yeah.
Yeah,
feel like taping
and
it-
if you're working, you're like, that's a side gig. It's not your main gig. you know?
Yeah, like if you feel like taking a nap, you take a nap. If you feel like going for a walk, you go for a walk. But like here in America specifically, it's just like you have to constantly be moving, or you feel like almost like a sense of guilt, like you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, or you know, you're going to disappoint somebody if you aren't constantly moving, when in reality you're only mainly going to disappoint yourself, unless obviously you have somebody
Right.
else relying on you, which in the most case it is like just self guilt, self negativity. It's not, nobody else is relying you, it's more you're just placing that feeling on yourself. So
Yeah, 100%.
yeah. So I think it is very important to know that, like, if you have a day where you just don't feel like getting out of bed, your body probably needs it. So just give it to it. Like, let it lay in bed. Don't get up and just spend the day, and don't feel guilty about it because there's no reason for it. And you have, you know, a copious amount of days to get it done. There's so many, you know, you've got time. Even though sometimes it doesn't feel like you got time, you got time. So yeah, if you don't feel motivated to do something, sometimes it is best to just lay down and let the day pass by. But sometimes that day turns into multiple days where you just feel unmotivated, and eventually you do have to kind of force yourself out of that. And so there's like a fine line between taking a rest day and then, you know, going too far with it and letting yourself fall into this place of almost like depressive state of staying in bed, to where you need to like force yourself out of bed or force yourself to do something. And I think the best thing that you can do is just like tiny wins, like tiny things. Like for me, I love writing.
Yeah, we've talked about tiny wins before. Just like just the small things. Like even if it's not a maybe you didn't clean your whole bedroom or clean your whole house. Maybe you just picked up a single sock on the ground.
Yeah. And for me, I personally like, and this is like one of my favorite tips, is I like to write everything down that I do in a day when I'm feeling unmotivated. So I write a
You
checklist.
crazy.
Write a checklist, I mean, of everything: brushing your teeth, washing your face, making your bed, putting on clothes. And then you can go through and check those things off, and you realize that you actually do a lot more in a day than you actually might think you're doing. And sometimes that can help you feel a little bit more motivated, being like, oh, I actually did a lot of stuff today. I just didn't really realize it, or I'm not conscious of the fact that I'm doing all of these things. And so sometimes putting it to paper, or, typing it into your phone or whatever you want to do, can help you like visualize all the things that you're doing. And then that will make you feel, more motivated and in a better mind space, I guess. Also, something that me and Anthony have been implementing recently is the accountability buddy, having an accountability buddy. I honestly we talked about this actually, like how sometimes it is hard to like voice what you need help on to other people because you want to keep it to yourself, or you're just not comfortable sharing. But it's really like not that.
Yeah, I guess you just wouldn't be as anxious to do it. Because kind of like the way I think about like accountability buddies is like a lot of people don't have somebody that they feel that they can trust with holding them. And a lot of people are just uncomfortable with being held accountable in general, which
Yeah.
that's a whole nother thing I could get into, but accountability. So like I don't know, like I think it's easier because, like I have Jenny as a sibling, right? And like I trust her, and I trust her to like motivate me and
Yeah.
not put me down. So it's kind of one of those things where, if you have like a significant other, like a best friend, you can kind of call on them and say, "Hey, yo, I notice I've been acting up. Can you just like hold me accountable if you catch me acting up,
Yeah.
and give me reminders if you can." And you can do it to anybody, but whoever you're ideally like closest with is probably the person you're going to want to do it, because you're not going to want to do it to like your friend who's like
You're not really
off.
super comfortable with. Yeah.
Yeah, like they're just like maybe they aren't the most responsible person. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect them to hold me responsible if they can't even hold themselves responsible. So yeah, if you can find a person to hold you responsible and accountable,
Yeah. And
it takes away like the first time you do it, you get used to it, because it's an acquired taste. You don't just like jump out the gate and be like, "Hey, hold me accountable," and then feel good about it. You're gonna like
yeah, and
probably gonna be anxious.
yeah, and like you have a lot of different types of like accountability buddy like routines. Like some people do it where if they don't do something specific every single day, then there's some sort of price that they have to pay, whether that be like giving their accountability buddy money, or having to go and do a specific task that they don't like really doing. Like normally there's some sort of negative reward, but you don't have to do that. You don't have to have a negative reward. You can literally just have an accountability buddy, and all that they do is just text you every day and say, "Hey, did you do this?" Like, "Hey, did you do whatever it is that you want to be doing?" And that's it. Because when you get that text, or, that call from that person, and they ask you, "Hey, did you do this today?" You know whether or not you did it. And so even if you lie to them and say, "No, like I did it," like you're going to feel in yourself, you're going to be like, "Oh, like I just lied to them and said I did it and I didn't do it. So maybe I should do it." Or, the reminder might just spark your memory. Maybe it's something you forgot to do and you're like, oh yeah, I should do that right now. And so it doesn't have to be as like concrete as like having a negative repercussion when it comes to having accountability oh my gosh.
Be like, hey homie, I haven't been responsible. Can you tase me every time I don't do this?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's not that serious. So it can be really lighthearted, and that's a fun way to kind of keep motivated on what you're trying to do. And also,
Well, and it probably forms a friendship bond, you know what I'm
yeah.
saying? If you're into the friendship
And
stuff.
it's even better if like maybe whoever your accountability buddy is doing like the task. Like if you're both trying to work out every day and you're both able to like bounce off of each other, that's even better if you can find somebody that's going through what you are also going through in terms of what you want to get done.
2020 and 2021, the beginning of 2021 has been slump season, I think, for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to be in a slump, especially right now, just because like not a whole lot of things are going on and the world's kind of like slowed down the pace for the most part. But now things are speeding back up. But it's still okay to be in a slump. But like you were saying, like if you have like a down day where you just like, you're not feeling it, you're not going to, by forcing yourself to do something while you're in a slump, depending on what it is, like if it's something creative, right? Like if me and you are in a slump, Jenny, like we tell each other and then we don't record our podcast or record something. Or
Yeah.
like, and that like, that's okay. And if we were to force ourselves to do something like that while we are in a slump, right? The quality of whatever we're creating or whatever you're creating, people, like could, you know, drastically be diminished, right? Like you could just have like a poopy project or, you know, just feel poopy about it. If you're not feeling good about it, clearly don't do it.
Yeah.
But while if you are going to stay down and rest, those hours that you are like doing things and can get your body motivated and get it moving, try to make those really high quality periods of time or blocks of time, right? Like in a day, you only feel like super energized and motivated for 4 hours. Try to make those 4 hours really, really productive. And when I mean really, really productive, like I watch this from the Big Daddy Jeff Bezos, you know, Big Daddy Bezos. And he was saying, he was asked specifically, a lot of CEOs in like Silicon Valley and just across the world, you know, they wake up at the ass crack of dawn, like 4:30 in the morning, and they only get like 4 to 5 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
And or they don't get that much sleep, and they're just going all the time. And Jeff Bezos was like, I think that's absurd. I personally need 8 hours of sleep, so I get my 8 hours of sleep, but I make sure that when I'm awake, that that period of time where I'm working is like the most high quality amount of time that I'm spending, right? So like he even said like most things people think they need to do in a week or have planned to do throughout the week can be done in one day. Could be done within the block of like 4 hours, depending on what it is.
Planned efficiently.
Not right, like not now. I'm not saying like working a job, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking about like your chores, I can't even get myself to do this, so I'm not even like trying to give advice, but it's something I've been trying to get better at is, you know, if I'm going, I don't stop, because as soon as you stop, then you get back in the flow of just chilling, right? So like, yeah, if you need 8 hours sleep, get your sleep, or if you need to rest, get your rest. But then when you do get up, see how many things you can do, especially if you can combine it with like a writing thing. That way you have a checklist of like the things you could do. And that's one of the things. I don't have a checklist necessarily, but yeah, I try to do everything now, like my chores and stuff, all at once in one day when I'm feeling like cleaning or something, like
Right.
when you're in the mood, you're in the mood. So you got to like roll with it and get in the flow and just have that high quality time spent when you're not at rest.
If there is a day where you are down, like even if you just take an hour and do as much as you can in that hour and then just spend the rest of the day in bed, like you'll be doing more in that hour than you probably think you will. And so just forcing yourself to get up and do something. And normally when you actually get up, you find you have more energy than you actually thought you had. Like once you get into it and then you start doing more things and then you're like, oh, like I can do this for another hour. And then so sometimes it's just, the act of getting up and doing something that will kickstart the entire like day of productivity or, kickstart your motivation.
Sometimes when I'm really, really slumped, I roll out of bed and I lay on the ground with just like my face in the ground. Don't do it if you have a hard floor, but I have a carpet in my room, so I will literally just like lay down flat like a worm, and I just like breathe a little bit, and then maybe I do like a little yoga thing, like y'all ever get in that child's pose where you curl up in a fetal ball, and then your face is still like in the ground, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I just lay there like that, and I even like let out some moans and groans, if I'm feeling like I'm just saying, if you're feeling like slumped and you're like feel like booty, right? Like I will straight up, if I know I'm feeling like booty, I'll just like I said, get in the like child pose or just lay flat on the ground, and I'll just be like, oh, and they'll start like moaning and groaning, and then like that like pushes air and energy throughout your body. Like, how like meditative people, they'll be like, oh, it's like that, but you're just like moaning and groaning and you're like feeling it. And then usually after I let out like a few moans and groans, like I'm like, okay, I feel a little bit better. I can do some more things, and I'll get up and like do something. But it's like, sometimes you just gotta feel into it, because you're feeling that way for a reason.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
true.
like when you let out some moans and groans, me personally, I'm like, wow, this is stupid. Why am I doing it? And it's funny, so I like laugh, and then the laughter energizes me, and then I'm like, ha ha ha.
Have you ever heard the tip? I mean, you probably have heard it. I'm sure most people have, where you just fake laugh until you real laugh, and then it just like gives you energy.
Dude. Now that sounds like some psychopath shit, right? People like,
yeah,
it does. Like, oh, you see, like pull up this dude's just laughing, and like you pull up, he's in his car and he's just laughing.
Yeah.
Like hysterically, and you're like, why is he laughing? Like he looks like crazy or something. I watched like a video, and it was the CEO of like some like printing company, and he was basically saying like he had a hard time like coming into work at first as a CEO and like being a chipper nice dude to everybody.
Yeah.
And it was because he was waking up and he wasn't like happy with what he was doing, really, right? And so like that was one of the things he would do, is he'd fake laugh for as long as it took to get him to actually laugh.
Yeah.
And then he'd start actually laughing, and then him actually laughing would like shift his mindset in a way.
Radiate positive energy.
Yeah, because you're just like, you gotta, I don't know, like some people get in their head, and that's like why you're being a slump. So if you just like start laughing hysterically, you're not gonna be in your head as much because you're actively doing something, but also like there's some humor in it, and the humor like actually gets you, like changes your like mindset.
I just really want to know what your roommate thinks when he hears you in there.
I don't like
moaning.
do it loud. Like I'm not like screaming, you know what I'm saying? But I let out some like, oh, like feel it in your chest and your lungs and stuff, like right here, and you just then get it from your belly and you just, oh, and yeah.
I guess that's the way to go.
You let it out, you know. It's like, I don't know, like there's like this like a stress relieving thing where like you just go out into nature and you scream as loud as you possibly can. It's kind of like that, but you're not screaming, you're just moaning and groaning.
Groaning. Oh my gosh, that's funny. I feel like that's a good tip though.
Yeah, I mean, try it. Next time you just like, I'm not in like, you don't even have to be standing. You don't, literally lay flat on the ground.
Roll onto your
Like
floor.
you are, like you're having a crisis.
Yeah.
Like if you're just like in that mode, like you're just about to have like a crisis breakdown, and you just let it out. You just start groaning. You just, oh, or you know, you breathe a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like what your energy is doing while you're laying on the ground, and then maybe you do like a little stretch while you're laying on the ground. Maybe you just let out a really loud groan, and then you just lay there. Just feel it for like good 5-10 minutes, however long it takes.
Yeah.
Just lay on the ground. And another thing you can do while you're in a slump, or in a funk as I like to say, is listen to some funk. And that's my personal tip. It works for me.
I love it.
Almost all the time. You find just something really funky, like some Isley Brothers, like turn on some Temptations, some Earth, Wind and Fire.
Just something that's high energy.
Something high energy, and like really like something that makes you like get a nasty look on your face because
Bass face.
it just sounds so good. Yeah, like a bass face, like if it's a dubstep song. But like personally funk, like if I hear like a riff or like a bass line that is exceptionally like funky, or like somebody does like a huh, or like a, you know, like a hee hee, like something like Michael Jackson, like when he feels it, like you feel it, and then I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
this is groovy.
And then it like motivates you to get moving a little bit.
Oh yeah, like funk music is probably the one thing that I can listen to at least 70, maybe 65% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And like if I listen to it and I find some fire, or like I have a song that is some fire, like I'll turn it on and just dance to it or something, or just like groove, and then it uplifts me because it's like a upbeat song, and they're just, most funk songs are just talking about funk, you know, and stuff. Like they don't really talk about anything in general. Yeah, like you just feel better. So listen to funk to get out of your funk. My number one tip of the day, if you need funk songs, I have a ton of funk songs. Hit me up, slide in my DMs.
But yeah, those are our tips for staying motivated for today. And if you guys have any, let us know. You can follow us on Instagram at OverboardX Podcast. That's Overboard, the letter X Podcast. You can also find us on YouTube if you're not already watching us there. Definitely go subscribe. We post videos, the video version of the podcast on there, and some extra videos also. And yeah, I hope everybody has a nice day, a nice, motivated, lovely day. And if you're not motivated, stay in bed. Roll on the floor. Go do some moaning and groaning. Yeah.
Squirm like a literal worm. You won't be disappointed.
And we'll see you on next.
Just turn off all the lights, put a blanket over your head, and just squirm. Squirm like a worm. It's called night crawlers.
And we'll see you on the next podcast. Bye.
We'll get to steadier waters eventually.